87% of realtors get into the business and get out of the business in 2 years. That doesn't exist in our world.
We have massive visions around growing our businesses, and we are always looking to add talent to our world. We do everything in our power to ensure the people we surround ourselves with defy the odds, get into production, and build massive lives for themselves.
If you are a realtor looking to get into the business, we have a blueprint for success.
With locations all across Canada, reach out to us. Let's talk about partnership and opportunities. We are looking forward to it.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Sales Piece Podcast. I am super excited to have Pete Pessetto with us here today. We were talking about this offline, Pete. You were my OG Bold coach.
Oh yeah, man.
First coach I ever stood in front of when I got in the business. So you had a huge impact on me and a huge impact on many Canadians in the real estate space. It's been, when did you stop? You don't coach Bold anymore. When did you stop?
I chose to stop in 2017. I had gone through a separation, and I kind of joke now that when I do my speeches that I asked for three things in the divorce papers. I asked for the KitchenAid mixer because I'm an Italian guy and I like to cook. I asked for the memory foam mattress because I just love that damn mattress. And of course, I was on the road all the time. So when I got home, I wanted that comfortable mattress, and I asked for 50% of my son's time, no more, no less. And so I got all three, and I have a great working relationship with his mom. I'm super grateful where we're at. And the Bold coach lifestyle was very challenging for me to create a consistent schedule for him because he was like 2, 3, 4 at that time. And so I got off the road so I could work more from home and just be a more present dad. I don't miss the late night traveling, the early morning traveling, the delayed flights. I miss the people a ton. If I could, if there's a time machine that I could just step out and step back in and be home in an instant, I would never have done anything else, man. I love the people and I loved seeing them grow.
Yeah, I can say the people love you because there are no Bold classes that happen in Canada that I've been to, at least, where your name doesn't come up.
Oh man.
I think the students always ask, who's your favorite Bold instructor? I know I ask that whenever I go.
Yep.
And it's hands down you and Kate Peterson, 100%.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's your name and Kate's whenever I ask that question.
That's so cool. And for me, even more so because I actually got to train Kate when she was just starting out.
Okay.
She was a student in my class, and like in the middle of class, she went and interviewed and got accepted. And then by the end of class, she was what we call redshirting or training with me, which was pretty cool.
Yeah. So I'll be honest with you. I don't know a lot about your experience before I met you in the Bold room. When I met you, you were this head honcho instructor that everyone looked up to. Who was Pete Pessetto before Bold?
That's a great question. I think if I'm going to accurately look at my career, I have to kind of go back to very early on in my real estate career. I took about 2 years off. I got an opportunity to go work at a nonprofit, and that was really near and dear to my heart. And that was in youth soccer, believe it or not. And so by day, from like 7 a.m. to 3 or 4 p.m. every day, I did sales and marketing to grow. So I was working with what is now the largest youth soccer club in the United States. I think they have like 15 or 17,000 kids in this one league playing soccer. And so from 7 to 3 or 4 in the afternoon, I was sales and marketing. And then in the afternoon, I got to go coach the elite U17 and U18 kids that would go on and play in college. And that's where I really sort of fell in love with coaching. And the idea of like, we all have this top end that we're capable. We all have this potential of what we're capable of. And yet when we unlock that mindset piece, how that we really can step into that potential. So I got into real estate, and I had originally gone to school to be a French teacher, believe it or not. And so I liked teaching, I liked coaching. And when I got into Keller Williams, there was a lot of these amazing classes. So every time there was an opportunity to grow, and learn how to become a trainer, learn how to become a coach, I stepped into those classes. And so, I think at the time, we don't always understand in the moment, like the decisions we make, right? We make the best decision we can. And that if you look back over a longer period of time, you can see that I really sort of sought out that leadership, that training, those opportunities. I felt like, I deal more with agents. Agents are technically my market, you know what I mean? Not the end user. And yet agents are my friends. They're my coworkers. They're my colleagues. They're, you know what I mean? They're my confidants. And so, knowing the life of a real estate agent and how challenging it can be, whatever I can do to help them have the income that they're looking for and have the time to enjoy that income, right, is the key part, is have them put the systems in place. It's great to go out and do 100, 200, 300 GCI, but if your kids don't know who you are, you know what I mean? Or you're showing up and you're missing, play recitals or soccer games or whatever it is, or just even time with your romantic partner. Are you really is this really what you want out of your life?
Mike, I don't know if you know this, Peter was my first coach too, but not a bold coach. He was actually like my team's coach. So that's how we got originally introduced. And I'm so glad to kind of have the circle completed and have you on the podcast today. Now, when you filled out our guest questionnaire, one of the things that you added is the reason that you got into your current role was to have the opportunity to scale growth for more people. So right. How does that show up in your life? And can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, honestly, you guys are a little bit living proof of it in that I obviously haven't been involved in your day-to-day lives. And yeah, I had an opportunity to coach you at some point. And now here you are pouring into other people, right? And John Maxwell talks about the different levels of leadership, right? Level one is you lead people because you have manager for a title, right? You're the boss. Level two is leading people because they've given you their permission, like they believe in you enough. And a level three leader is a leader that gets results, right? So I can coach you all day long, but if it's not growing you, you're not winning. And yet that level four leader is coaching other people coaching leaders that are getting results. So to be able to take, the follow-up is a great example. So I really went on this journey and I don't understand why we as an industry haven't sort of figured this out better, because I got in the industry in the late 90s. The people that were getting out of the industry at the time that I was around, they started in the 70s and 80s. They had the same problems with time management that we do today. Like, why have we not figured this out for ourselves, right, as an industry? And so I kind of went on this journey, and I say it's like, have you ever had a sweater that had like a loose string or something? You started pulling at it and all of a sudden like the whole arm came off. Like, to me, that's sort of how my journey to solve time management has gone. And what I realized is we cannot solve time management without having a conversation about follow-up. And so I went on this journey to sort of make follow-up sustainable, because when I'm with my son, I want to be present with my son. I want to have time. I want to do things. And at the same time, I'm a business owner. I don't want my business to stop because I chose to go to my son's soccer game. So how do we make follow-up sustainable? How do we scale that? And so as I started looking at solutions for myself, I really looked at it and I was like, wow, I can help so many more people than just my own business with these same things. And so going about teaching people and creating resources for them to really start understanding, like, hey, there's 5 core follow-up systems that every business needs. Why aren't why aren't these pre-built into every CRM? Why aren't these already set up for us? Why aren't we being taught these things? And if we can just get these core follow-up systems in place, agents wouldn't have to work as hard at the lead gen, because what they would get out of lead gen would be so much greater.
Yeah, it's the nurturing, right? Rather than the constantly prospecting and trying to fill the database, but then doing nothing with it.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's a sales pyramid, and I don't have I'll get you the diagram of it, but there's 4 levels to it. So if you imagine a pyramid, 60% of people, and this goes whether you're selling iPhones or coaching or cars or real estate company, 60% of people out there in your sphere don't have a need for your service. It's not on the radar. They're not even paying attention to it. 20% of the people out there, and that's what we call they're not problem aware. Okay. So then 20% of the people are problem aware. So if we're talking about selling a house, 60% of the people in your world, selling a house isn't even on the radar. They don't have a problem. They don't need a real estate agent. 20% are problem aware, but it's not a big enough problem. Remember how in Bold we used to say logic makes you think and
emotion makes you act?
There you go. So they're in that they have a problem, but it's not emotional enough that they want to do something about it yet. 17% of the people out there are information gathering, meaning same law, logic makes people think, emotion makes them act. There's something about that problem that has enough emotion to them that they're starting to look for solutions. And 3% of the people out there are what we would call buying now.
Right.
And a lot of the work that we're spending is to try to find that 3% that are buying right now. And yet we're missing 97% of the other people. So for like a long-term nurture or a 33 touch, is my long-term nurtures are all about just, hey, here's a problem. Here's somebody who had that problem. Here's how we help solve that problem. If you want to gather more information, here's how you do it. Right. And all I'm doing is sort of raising the issue of there's problems out there. Here's how you fix them. And then that's going out to the 60% and the 20%. And then you can put systems in place pretty easily where those people that are information gathering, it's almost like their actions self-select. So by downloading, by going to my website, my systems automatically identify you as somebody that's information gathering. So now I can offer an opportunity to get on the phone. Hey, it looks like you downloaded this. Would you like to jump on a call and ask some questions for 30 minutes? And if I can help you understand where the problem is, show you how we solve the problem, and give you the information to solve your problem, I've got you at the 60%, 20%, 17%. I'm probably going to get you at the 3%.
Yeah, you're just constantly moving them up until they're ready.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And we take a lot of agents, I think, take too short term of a view on this, and they don't understand how these things sort of all fit together.
So is that something that you focus on within your coaching? Is that something that your courses are built throughout, and that really just focus on those kind of you said 4 or 5 core follow-up systems, right?
Yep. So what we did was we actually, so I launched a software company last year to help automate, customize and automate follow-up solutions for people. And we knew that those core needed to be there. So we preload them for people and then set them all up. Right. But I've also, and I will, by Monday, I will get you guys all this stuff. We actually have a free class that agents can go and take that walks them through in their own CRM how to build the 5 core follow-up systems. and what those touches should look like and how they should be. So we'll get that to you guys, and anybody that listens to your podcast, if they're interested, they can download that class for free and check it out.
Yeah, that would be amazing. We'll link it in the bio down below. I was trying to find it on my other screen. I think I found it on your Facebook page, but we'll link it and we'll make sure that everybody can reach out to contact you.
Sounds great. So yeah, we get into this, we get into these solutions. What I think a lot of the people that have put these things in place realize, and the comment that we get a lot is, number one, people say, I didn't even understand like how I should be doing these. Like nobody ever stopped and explained this to me. And the second thing we hear from people is, oh my gosh, I see a whole other level to my business that I just never even imagined I'd be able to get to. But now that they have these sustainable systems in place, they can get there.
Yeah, I think it's tough, and I see it. I'm sure Mike sees it consistently because there's a constant turnover of new agents entering the business, and there's not like a set, like, here's what you need to be doing, here's your follow-up system. I mean, we have great books, of course, and great courses, but people tend to want to do things their own way. So it's great that you actually have a model to follow, because I mean, if that's your issue in the follow-up and you want to get more out of the database that you have, that's really where to start.
Is that a niche that hasn't really been tapped yet? Yeah, I haven't seen a KW course. There are many courses that say have a touch program. This is how many times you need to touch them and how you need to touch them. But is there anything that exists that says this is exactly what you need to do and say?
No, I had to do a lot of research. I looked, I've spent years on this journey to sort of solve follow-up. And really, I had to do a lot of, I was hoping to find something out there that I could just copy, right? One of the great things I learned at KW is somebody out there's done it. They've done it well, and you can go copy them. And there was a wonderful lady who played a huge positive role in my career. Her name is Holly Perry, and Holly Prescott. She was actually married to John Prescott, who was in charge of Bold for a while. And I said something about sort of copying somebody one time, and she had this wonderful like Texas accent, and she just nice as can be. She go, "Oh, honey, at Keller Williams, not only is plagiarism encouraged, it's often required to be successful." And I was like, "Oh, I love that," right? So anyway, I went on the search, and I really had to kind of piece it together from a lot of different things. But once I did, it was like, oh, okay, there it is. There's what we need, and breaking it down. Little things like, did you know that the number 3 most clicked on page for a real estate agent on their website is the About You? And yet a lot of agents don't have marketing that says, this is why I do what I do. This is how I do what I do. Another big one that I see is real estate agents will, along those lines, they don't tell someone who is not a potential client for them. Meaning, if I walked into a Bold room and I said to, hey, show of hands, how many in here of you will do discount listings? Maybe 1 or 2 people would raise their hand, maybe out of a class of 100. And yet, how many people out of 100 will say, I don't do discount listings in my marketing? Virtually no one. And they're like, oh, I get people all the time that want discount listings. I'm like, well, do you have on your marketing that you don't do discount listings? No. So how much time are you wasting? And is that other person wasting reaching out to you? What if you just said up front in all your marketing, hey, I don't do discount listings, period. And so making sure that we're super clear about, this is who a lead is for us. This is who is not a lead for us.
So just to run through those, because I want to come back and reiterate the follow-up system. So 60% of people that you come across are not problem aware.
Correct.
And you've got 20% that are problem aware.
Yep.
and then 17 information gathering, and then you said 3% buying now.
Yep. You know, and honestly, look at it in terms of like buying an iPhone, right? So 2 years ago, I upgraded my iPhone. The last 2 years, it hasn't even been on my radar. Last 3 or 4 months, my phone's 2 years old. I'm noticing I'm starting to charge it more. Now I'm problem aware, but it's not emotionally enough, you know, that I have a problem with it. Now I'm like, oh, the 14's out and I have the 12. Oh, right now I'm going to start information gathering. Who's got the best one? Where can I get the best deal? And I'm probably, once I find the information that I want, I'm probably going to make the decision and go buy it pretty quickly. Right. And it's the same thing with cars. It's the same, you know, it's the same stuff over and over again. We just need to apply it to ourselves.
So I have a question about that. Do you, within your database, have these people divided up into buckets, and do each of these 4 groups get different messaging?
No, so what we do is we allow we've actually found a way inside of our system to score people based on their behavior, right? So if you're getting my marketing and you're opening an email now and then, okay, that's 1 or 2 points. Let's just say you open an email, that's 1 point. Okay, so now you're on my radar. In my pipelines, you're automatically being moved to my pipeline. Okay, he's opening them up, but he doesn't have a lot of scores. If all of a sudden I see you, if you go out to my website and download a form, I might give you a 5-point score. So you jump up in my pipeline. So then I go, okay, there's Mike. He opened an email. Now he's information gathering. Now that tells me that's the place I want to spend my energy. Right? If I'm going to make a call today, I'm going to reach out to Mike and go, hey, Mike, saw you just downloaded XYZ form. Would you like to jump on a call for 30 minutes and ask some questions? So we let the person's behaviors tell us who is the people that we should spend our energy on, because on any given day, you have a finite amount of energy. Right? And I can smile and dial 100 contacts and hope for the best, or I can let my system sort of sort by who's information gathering, who's clicking on my website, who's downloading forms, who's opening emails, and I can reach out to them. I'm going to have a much higher likelihood of picking up business today. So less calls, more business, and I'm letting my systems do the work.
That's fantastic. I think the process I see most people have in place, they have the emails going out. They'll maybe look at open rates, but they won't do anything with it.
Right. And that's where, and we also knew that agents didn't have a ton of time to set this up. We knew that agents wouldn't necessarily take the time to do it. Not all of them are tech savvy. Not all of them want to. They just, most of them are busy with their own business. They don't have the time to just go learn a new software or do all this stuff. And knowing how real estate agents work, we just put it in place for them all.
So this offering you have, you could come into a team or an individual agent and set up their CRM.
Yep. And our system does everything. So we have a social media planner, we have websites, funnels, templates, CRM, texting, Instagram, Facebook, Google, they're all integrated. So, one of the things that I would do, and you guys are at a place in your career, I would highly recommend every time you go to a national event, find somebody that you don't know and ask them these questions, especially if they, have been on stage or, they're one of some of the top maps coaches. I'd always ask like, hey, if you were going to do it over again, not what your biggest mistake was, but if you're going to go back and do your whole career over again, what's 1 or 2 things that you would do? And almost everyone has told me the same 2 things. First is they would put every single person that they ever met into a database, in the CRM, everyone. And the second thing they tell me is I wouldn't wait to start developing a bench of talent. Meaning a lot of people, let's say I'm growing as a real estate agent and all of a sudden I've got like 20 listings. I got all these buyers coming in. I don't have time to deal with them. So I go hire a buyer's agent. Most often that person is hiring a buyer's agent out of pain. Help me with this business. I don't have time. Versus developing someone, and when you're ready for them, they're already developed. They're somebody that you can put in tomorrow without training. You've already vetted them. You've been paying attention to their social media for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. You know how they act. You know what they're like. So it's a known entity, as opposed to hiring someone, having to get them up to speed, having to check behind them, potentially losing business. It's difficult. And then once you put that first buyer's agent into place, go find the next one. I don't care if you have the world's best buyer's agent. Go find your next one right now. Even if you don't need them, start developing that bench of talent. And
Yeah,
that was big. That was a big lesson.
That's definitely something that I see a lot of people missing the mark on. And even if you have buyer's agents, when you're building that bench of talent and you always have, people lined up ready to work with you, if something happens with that current person in that role, you're not now stressing out because you have to take back all the roles that you've given out. You now have the next person that can come in and, for lack of a better term, be that replacement.
100%. And as you guys understand now, like there is some growth to being a coach, to being a leader. You have to get experience with the hard conversations and developing someone. So it's an opportunity to develop yourself to be a better leader for someone without it being an official capacity if need be.
I was just going to say, I think it's really good for your top people if you're always filling the pipeline and bringing on new talent. I find it keeps them very humble. I had an experience a couple of years ago. One of our top guys came to us and made it clear that he was our top. Put me in I was new to leadership, and it put me in an awkward position. It came from a place of scarcity. We kept hiring and hiring and hiring, and he still is one of our top people, but I have now many top people. So if something was to happen and he needed to explore a different opportunity, it's not going to end me.
No.
And I'm always trying to, the more you can diversify your business across many talented people, the less reliant you are on one, which has been a beautiful thing for me.
Yeah. I'll tell you, it gives you, and this is the skill that if I were going to go start my career over, and I could go back and coach myself, the first month of my career, all I would have done was role play asking questions. I think asking questions is, no matter how much you hear about it, is still an underrated skill. The ability to think and ask questions to help people. And being, as a bold coach, you probably saw me ask a tough question or two at times. Being willing to ask the tough question, being willing to ask somebody flat out, like, what was most important to you about this? Or, this is the train that I see you on, or the trend that I see your career going. Is that the person that you are? And sometimes people come back to me and they might not like me at first when I ask that question. I've had multiple people that have told me, they're like, when you ask me that, I want to take a swing at you. But later on, they'll always come back to me and go, I'm so grateful that you asked me that question and wouldn't allow me to hide and made me answer that question.
Yeah.
And I think for a brand new real estate agent or anyone new in sales, the skill of asking questions will help you control conversations, and it will give you a confident energy that is different. It's just different.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any resources or places you would recommend people go to learn how to ask questions? I know Anna and we just took Red Shirt within the last
Okay.
24 months each
There's
of us.
there's a great book that I like. I think it's called The 7 Powers of Questions. That's a really, really good one. It's honestly, it's a little bit like what do they call it? Not stand up. The show, Whose Line Is It Anyway? Improv.
Improv.
Right? Is role playing asking a question and not answering the questions, is people asking questions back and forth. We used to walk into a room, so I'd be in there with, let's say, 150 bold or 150 maps coaches, like people that are trained to ask questions. You had everybody had 5 $1 bills, and you had to walk around and talk to other people and ask them questions, and they were asking you questions. And if you answered it, they got to take one of the dollar bills. And if you got them to answer yours, you stumped them, you get to take one of theirs. And like the first time I did it, I think my $5 bills were gone in like 6 minutes. Like, I mean, I had 3 people and I was done. I was like, the next time I went, I was like, oh hell no, that's not happening again. So I won that one, but it's just something that in a bold classroom, what we were told was we had to be able to solve somebody's problem in 5 questions or less, and in less than 3 minutes. So how do you have Anna, who's got a challenge, and you've got 100 people there? How do you help her with her challenge without losing the rest of the room at the same time? And making it a relevant thing for everyone, and solving that question in such a way that doesn't make her look bad, that she's able to get a real answer and helps everybody else. And so those opportunities, it was trial by fire for me. I did it nonstop all day long, every day for about 2.5 years. So people now, they're like, don't mess with Peter if you don't want to, because he'll ask you questions you don't want to have to answer.
But those are the best questions, the ones that make you think. Like I've done this a couple times with Sandy, where he'll ask me something in the moment, I'm like, oh, why'd you ask me that? And then I like think about it, and I think about it, and I think about it over the next couple days, and I come back and I'm like, thank you for asking that, because now like here's my solution, rather than coming and complaining. Like, here's the solution that I came up with based on the question that you asked.
Yep.
Can you maybe shed some light on why it's beneficial to ask questions when you're looking to solve a problem versus just telling your client or a realtor on your team what to do?
100%. And there's a priority order to asking questions. In Coach's Skills Camp, we learned this, and it's why, what, how, who. So the why question is the least empowering question that I can ask you. The who question is the most empowering question that I can ask you. So if I say to you, Anna, why did you do that?
Immediately I'm on the defensive, right?
Right. You're immediately on the defensive, and 99% of the time you're going to get from somebody, I don't know. And not because they don't know, it's because you've asked the question in such a way that their brain wasn't able to answer it. But I could ask that same question and say, Anna, who were you hoping to benefit when you did that? Or what original goal did you think was going to be the outcome of that action? That's a much more engaging question. And when I learned this, I used to ask myself why questions all the time, like, why can't I do this? Or why can't I do that? And the day I learned that, I started changing the question in my head to, who do I see that is accomplishing that? What are they doing that I could copy? If I were to be able to do that, how could I do it? And that's one of the best questions I've ever learned to ask. And it just opens up. So there's science to this. One of the laws of the universe is called the law of the vacuum. And it's as powerful as any, it's like the law of gravity. It is a universal law. And it affects everything. And the law of the universe states that the universe abhors a vacuum in all forms and rushes to fill all space, physical or metaphysical. Okay. What does that mean? Well, joking around, I could say that means that whether Anna walks out of the house with a shoulder bag or a clutch, that thing is probably full to the brim. It's the reason we don't take half-empty suitcases on vacation. We take the smallest suitcase we can and we fill it as full as we possibly can until we jump on it to get it closed, and then we take it on vacation. More importantly, a lot of people talk about the law of attraction, and they're trying to attract things into their life. For example, somebody's trying to attract a positive relationship into their life, but they're still caught up with negative relationships in their life. They don't have any room to attract that new relationship they want. Most people don't realize that they don't have room to attract the success they want into their life. And that's why they're not getting it. So when we ask questions, what we're actually doing is creating a gap or a vacuum in someone's thinking. And that allows for the possibility of new thoughts to happen and new answers to happen. So, it's the same way. If I have the same thought process around how to solve a problem, and I just keep thinking, oh, I just need to go this same thought process again and again and again, and eventually I'll figure it out, I probably won't. Because there's no gap to me being, but when I can create a gap as to, is this the best way to do it? Am I the best person to solve this problem? What have I not tried that I could? What am I not willing to look at? What am I not willing to do? Those create gaps in my thinking, which allow new thoughts to happen, and I'm much more likely to solve something. And as a coach, we were taught, if there's no gap, there's no place for someone to move forward.
That was the most simple, but yet in-depth breakdown of everything that I learned through Red Shirt. So thank you. That ultimately made me think so much differently about everything I learned.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah. That was great.
That's super cool. Took me a long time to figure that one out, like the simplicity of it. But that's why those things happen the way we do. So like even with my son, from the time he's been 4 or 5, once in a great while, something will happen in school and he's a great kid. I don't say, why'd you do that? Or why'd you do this? Or, I'll say, hey, who are the kids in school that you see acting and doing things like that? Do you want to be known like they are? No. Okay. So what do we got? What do we have to do? But it's a much different conversation at that point than saying to my child, why did you do that? When the dad in me is like, wants to go, why did you do that?
Yeah, I think the why did you do it question, why did you do it, is only used when a negative outcome has taken place. Where the second example ironic. You gave could be used for a negative or a positive. It almost sounds
right. Yep. It's really crazy to me. If you ask somebody, why did you do that? 99 times out of 100, you're not going to get an answer. If you say to someone, why not ... you'll usually get a much more creative answer. But I don't ask why questions unless I'm doing it specifically to draw out an example in this type of conversation, or I'm asking a conversation. I'm in the middle of teaching a class, and I don't necessarily want someone to answer that question. It's more rhetorical. Like, why aren't we putting more things into follow-up? And I'm going to go ahead and explain that. I'm not asking because I want a dialogue.
No, that's super cool. Well, I know that we're nearing the end of our episode, so I want to thank you for all the introspect that you gave us today. I'll let Mike chime in if he has any other questions, but there is one question that we ask all of our guests, and I want to ask you today, Peter. Who do you know that we should have on this podcast?
Multiple people, and it just depends on whether you want to go towards an author or a coach or someone like that. But there's some pretty great people out there I'd love to introduce you to, that do this type of stuff. I think probably someone that builds systems. You guys understand the disc, right? Being at Keller Williams, you probably have dealt a lot of experience with a disc. I'm a high I, high D. Depending on if I'm coaching, I'm probably a little more high D. If I'm hanging out at Mega Camp, I'm probably a little bit more high I, but that's my personality. I don't have a lot of S and C in yet. And so I always was scared of creating systems because I didn't understand what they were for, how to go about doing them. I've had to be very purposeful and done a lot of growth and learning about systems. And I think if we could help you guys find someone that could explain the simplicity of putting systems together and how to start doing that, I think more agents would dig in and they'd see the long-term benefit. But I think a lot of agent systems are Band-Aids. They're to get through this month or to get through this quarter or to get through something else, but they're not, hey, I eventually want to have a team that does 700 to 800,000 GCI. They're not putting systems in place for that. They're putting in systems in place to get to 100. And then they're having to redo the systems to get to 200. And then they're having to redo systems to get to 350. As opposed to, where do you ultimately want to go? Let's build the systems for that.
I think that would be an amazing episode. So whoever you know on that front, feel free to send them our way.
Okay, and here's a question that you guys can ask in the future. And my travels for Bold, I developed this one, and I actually have sat next to some super famous people in my travels just on different planes. And I always ask them this, and I got some great answers. I sat next to guys from ESPN. I sat next to a guy who's a world famous golf architect. I sat next to a guy who he won a Super Bowl with the Patriots. And I would always say, what is a question that you seldom, if ever, get asked that you wish people would ask you more? Because I wanted them to tell me something that I wasn't even smart enough to ask about. And I'll never forget it, and I'll leave you guys with this. The guy from the Patriots said, he went silent for like a minute, and I thought he was going to ignore me. And he finally stopped, and he finally kind of turned back to me, and he said, the true importance of God to so many of us in the locker room. He said, so many people think it's just about the cameras or an image, and how important God really is to so many of us in the locker room.
Wow.
And I don't get that question if I don't get that answer if I don't ask that question. Right? Because I'm not necessarily going to go, hey, are you really into God? Like, I'm not, like, I don't necessarily ask that. So, I always tell people, practice asking questions, role play asking questions, have a couple that if you sat next to a famous person tomorrow that you could ask that would engage them in conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Mike, any final questions from you?
Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, it was great.
Appreciate your time so much.
Absolutely. So what a great way to finish a week. And I'm going to get you guys the stuff so y'all can check out the Build Your Follow-Up class. And y'all, it was so great to have Mike. It was great to see you and be back hanging out, man.
Yeah, for sure. If you're ever in Canada, we'd love to see you.
Honestly, I was really wanted to get up there this summer, and my person was diagnosed with breast cancer, actually. So we had a little bit of a detour in our normal plans this year, but she's recovering. She's doing awesome. And so I obviously couldn't come before that because of quarantine, but my passport's ready to go and I can't wait to get back up there. So maybe I can get up there this summer.
Nice.
That'd be great.
See you then.
Thanks, guys. Y'all have a great weekend. We'll take care.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling.